sitting. That will help us maybe stay more alert. We will jog on the spot. Wait, I'll tell you how to do it. That means I'm not able to use this. Now, okay, we have the switch around. Okay, let's jog. Slowly, don't rush. I'll tell you when to add a little faster, a little faster, a little faster, a little faster, faster. What? Well, we don't have the right attire, but I hope we are awake. Now we are going to study about your immune health, which I believe is what I said we will talk about today. And because we've already prayed, we will go straight to the talk. Now your immune system, your immune system is a collection of organs and tissue and cells and enzymes which together work to protect you, to protect the body. Now, the reason we say it involves organs is because in as much as it's cells and enzymes which are particularly useful, but they are produced somewhere. For example, the T cells, which are part of your immune system, are created, is that a correct word, in the bone marrow, but they mature from the thymus gland. Now the immune system which protects you, which is like the army of your body, that's the same way we have the defense system of our country. Your immune system has two parts. We have this non-specific immune system and we have the specific. Now the non-specific involves the normal inflammatory responses. For example, when you are hurt, there are things that happen like swelling of your blood vessels, which improves supply to the place where you've been hurt. And in most cases, the place becomes swollen and it becomes red. That is an immune response, because as the blood vessels dilate, they supply more white blood cells to the place, and the heating also improves on circulation that way, making sure if it's a hurt, it's healed. And if it's infection, we have non-specific responses, which involves things we call phagocytes. They are really part of the white blood cells. Now what phagocytes do, they they identify things that are a threat to your body, and then they surround it. Now after they've surrounded it, making sure it doesn't spread to other parts of the body, they are also responsible for digesting. Now, before we go so far, let me define a few terms so that when I use them, it becomes easy. We have something we call a pathogen. A pathogen is a bacteria, a virus, a protozoa, or what else? Did I say virus? Or a fungus. These are things that are able to cause disease. These are what we call germs. Okay, the word germ, or disease-causing organism. Now, what phagocytes do, they notice pathogen, and then they surround it and digest it. Now, other non-specific is like the example I told you of swelling and reddening. They are simply inflammatory responses to things that are not normal or may be harmful to your body. And then we have the other part of your immune system, which is specific, which involves two types of cell majorly, together with other chemical components, which are chemical messengers of your immune system. We have the T cells or thymus cells, which they also identify things that are a threat. But apart from just identifying, they start a process that makes sure there's a production of something we call an antibody. Now, an antigen is a piece of pathogen which the body can identify through identifiers like the thymus cells as a threat. But it's not enough to just identify that this thing is harmful to the body. The body goes ahead to create antibodies from B cells so that it fights it. Now these thymus and B cells are specific because their work is quite particular. Their work is to identify a threat and create an antibody that fights it. Now an antibody is a protein, is simply a protein which is produced by B cells that is designed to specifically fight a certain type of antigen. Remember I said an antigen is simply part of pathogen which can be identified by a T cell. Now they all have a lot of work in your body, and for you to say that you have a perfect immune system, it has to be a co-working of all these different parts of the specific and non-specific. Now some things delay the working of these two together, or the inharmonious working of the two. A good example is what happens when now, okay, let me put it this way. When a threat has been identified in your body, whatever kind of it should be worked either by the non-specific or by the specific or both. Now, the first stage is the initiation stage where the body has just found it out and it is recruiting whichever kind of cell is needed to deal with it. That's the initiation stage. But the final stage is called the resolution stage of your immune system. That's where now your immune system has worked either through specific or non-specific and the case is solved. That's what you call immune resolution. The other one is immune initiation. Now, there are things that stop immune resolution or delay it, such that now maybe you had a threat that is now becoming a serious disease. It's getting out of control. Now those are the things that that's where we really come in. For example, if an immune response is prolonged or delayed, it could be harmful to your body. For example, when somewhere where you were hurt now becomes septic and it becomes a greater problem, or the body now, in other cases, turns to the same immune system and fights you. That is what you call that's how autoimmune diseases come from, like rheumatoid arthritis. Diabetes type 1 is also largely autoimmune. In this case, it's your immune system fighting you. It may have initiated to find a problem, but it didn't solve it. It became so complex for your system that now, at the end, the system is fighting you because it's anything foreign. A good example again is, you've ever had people who've gone through transplants, you know? Maybe I have a kidney transplant or any other organ transplant. My whole life, I'm put under immunosuppressors. What's their work? To make sure that my body does not, in a great sense, realize that this is foreign and start fighting it. So your immune system is something that you really need to value and you really need to work upon. There are basically 3 stages where it works, which I believe I've already mentioned. I said number 1 is where we have the local blood vessels dilate to supply the place that is either infected or hurt, or where we have the pathogen. Are we together? And then the second stage is where immune cells are recruited to the site, whether they are specific or none. And then lastly, we have the antibodies acting until the case is solved. Now, that's how it works. But what's my role? Notice that I have so much to do to make sure that these different systems work in perfect harmony to ensure that I'm in health. And basically, I love to look at it from 3 perspectives. There are 3 things you can do for your immune system. for your army within that protects you. And number 1 is to boost. Number 2 is to build. And number 3 is to balance. Now I'll quickly go through how you boost, how you build, and how you balance your immune system. Now with that in mind, I think those who were able to attend yesterday, we said basically there are 4 things that actually cause disease. That's a lot of acidity, a lot of waste in the body, over toxicity, and then we have accidents and genetics, where I was particular that it's not about what you inherited, but rather the tendencies you sustain that make sure you get sick. And these 4 conditions result from a violation of the 8 laws of health. We know the health laws of it. I'll just mention them. We love to remember them in our New Start, in as much as there are other ways. Like there's another one called God's Plan. There is celebrations. All those are acronyms which we use to remind ourselves of the 8 laws of health, which stand for nutrition, proper diet. And the law of nutrition is quite broad. Sorry, I moved back. I hope you can still capture. Because the law of nutrition is not just about what you eat. It's also about how it is grown, how it is stored, how it is prepared, and how it is eaten. All those 4 perspectives. Because you may have a very nutritious food. Let me use an example of spinach. But your method of preparation renders it useless. So the law of nutrition is quite broad. It's from how you grow food to how you eat it. For example, did you know that eating too fast renders most of the nutrients we eat useless? In this case, you give your body a very difficult time breaking it down, and by the time it is done being broken down, it has undergone through fermentation. And so you end up with more harm than good. That's a simple health habit. Eating too fast, eating too frequently, overeating, drinking and eating at the same time, improper combinations of food. I think we'll deal with that tomorrow. Improper combination of fruits. You see, there are fruits and they are good for your health, but how you use them renders everything useless or even harmful. That's the law of nutrition. Then we have exercise, which simply demands that in a week you have at least 4 sessions of exercise that tends to sweating. Not simple, I mean like taking a stroll that really doesn't do any, doesn't involve much of your muscles. But exercise, at least 30 minutes of exercise, not less than 4 days a week. Now that's a topic on its own and it takes us so much time. And then we have water. Internal and external use of water. We need to take in water for women at least 2 liters and for men at least 2.5 in a normal day. I know very few of us do that because some of us wait until we are thirsty to drink water. It's not become a habit. Now there's the external as well, like bathing, which we talked about yesterday, which is so vital, and hydrotherapy. Then we have sunlight. Just being able to take time and sunbathe, and not just any time of day. The most useful sun is between sunrise to 9 and from 4 p.m. to sunset. Why that is so is because the kind of radiations we receive on Earth are different. If you've ever been to a physics class, they'll teach you about the electromagnetic spectrum. In the midday, we have the shorter wavelengths, which are the high frequency, reaching us, and in morning and evening, we have the longer wavelengths, like IR, infrared, which we can feel. Sinio? Yeah, so that's why morning sun and evening sun is the most useful for your body. Midday sun may actually have dangers because that's when you are receiving most of the UV, not the IR. That is in your rainbow. You remember writing Roeg Biv? Yeah, that's when you have the blue to green wavelengths. They are short wavelengths, high frequency radiations, which may cause skin cancer. Today, many people fear sunbathing because they are afraid of cancer. Well, there are precautions you can take. And again, if you make use of the longer wavelengths, there is very little chance that you will have sunburn and those skin cancer issues. So take time to sunbathe, at least 20 minutes a day. That should do. Then we have fresh air. I think I skipped temperance. Temperance is being able to say no to what is harmful, and what is useful, you only take enough. For so long, people thought that temperance is about eating little food. Is it really? It's so broad. It involves even our habits of dress, our habits of work. There are people who work and don't rest. And when you are young like this, you can really do so much. Wait until you get to your 40s, and then your back starts telling you, you've been mistreating me long enough. Now it's my turn. And you suffer from osteoarthritis and other lifestyle diseases that involve our bones and our joints. Then we have, what did I mention? Air. And to the best you can get, be in the habit of taking in fresh air. But some of us are in where there's fresh air, but we still don't make use because we've not learned how to breathe properly. And we also have not learned how to do exercise. Now, breathing properly is dependent on your posture. Just want to see whether there's anyone who's seated correctly. The correct posture, so that your lung is able to take in the best capacity of air, should be L-shaped. You should try as far as possible to sit upright. Don't slump or back or front. Actually, the level of oxygen you take in different positions, if we had an instrument, you'll realize it's quite deep. Now, that's important. Learn to sit well, and then learn to do deep breathing exercises. When you wake up, go out. Take in, do a simple breathing in and out exercise. This is one that I learned from Joshua, the 4-7-9. You breathe in 4 seconds. About 4 seconds you breathe in, and then you hold it there for 7 seconds, and then release it through your mouth slowly at the count of 9. Then repeat that about 3-4 times. And the magic it does, if you've slept in a very stuffy room and go out and do it, you realize instant relief. You may want to try it someday. Try breathing in. And then breathing in is not like, you know, that we do. In fact, if you're properly breathing in, we should not see your chest going like. It's almost invincible. You take in air, 4, and then hold it up to 7 seconds, and then slowly release it. And then take a good posture, at least legs apart, free arms. I don't know where people got the idea that if you want to breathe in, you have to do like this. No, hands on the side, take in air to a count of 4, hold it, and then release it slowly. That's another important thing. Now, there are things which we cannot avoid for now, and that one of it is the environment in which we are in. Some of us have no control, but some can. To the best you can, live where there's a fresher supply of air. You know that where is. I don't really have to spell it out, but sadly, we may not have so much of an option. The other thing that we may not be able to have so much of control of right now is the use of masks. Did you know that when you use your mask, you reduce your oxygen supply up to about 70? Right now, most of our lungs are utilizing just about 70, and in worst cases, 50. But that's something we do not want to debate because we may not have so much of a control over. But if you can access fresh air in the best natural way as possible, you do yourself a great favor. And then we have rest, which demands that for an adult, you get about 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Now, if I sleep up to 10 hours of intermittent seasons of sleep, it may not be so useful. That's why, if you are in the habit of waking up to go and relieve yourself, we are told that by 6 p.m., you should have your last glass of water. So that as you go to bed, you don't have to wake up, rush to the bathroom and back, rush out and cook and eat. I had a friend in campus who would sleep to midnight and then just realize that they are hungry and start cooking ugali and scuba at 12 at midnight and eat and then go back to sleep. Well, you know, such a person, you can't tell them you shouldn't diet because their bodies have been working. But the truth is, their body is so much used to abuse. And the moment you start learning better habits, your body will refuse. I think I was sharing with a sister yesterday. She said that she had heartburn and I thought it was white rice that caused it. But these are the things we've been eating. Truth is, when you start changing and you start getting your system used to better habits and better food, the moment you try going back to that same article of food that you've been taking, your body will tell you no. Hatuendi hivi. So better for children, 9 hours should do. Today we see so less of that. Many kids are waking up too early. They are doing assignments up to 10. I have a neighbor where I live. She is in PP1, but she carries a very big bag. I don't know what happened to school, because remember we used to go with some exercise books that were cut into 2, and there were just 3 of them. And that's how we studied, and I believe we are still people today. I don't know what happened really. It's sad. And the bus is there. 6:30. The kid is still sleepy. She has a big bag. She gets into the bus and goes to school. Well, PP1, thank God they have a session where you have to sleep. It's a class to sleep. But to sleep. But when she comes back, most cases, she's usually very angry. I notice she comes back gloomy because they've woken up and then it's time to go back home and she's in the bus. By the time she's home, she has homework. And she loves to come to my place. Auntie, nifundishe silabi. I don't know. Well, thank God I can still remember some of those things. But she has so much homework, and then she goes home and watches TV with the parents and sleep around 10. And that kid will be up by 5 to be prepared to go to school. And that's why I believe the mental capacities of our kids are dropping. Every generation is way weaker because of our habits. Sleep is so important. And then we have trusting in divine power, trusting in God. Now back to our immune system, or rather immune health. We said there are 3 things we could do to health. One we said is to, okay. I've been talking to myself all along. I said number 1 is to do what? Is to boost your immunity. How do you boost your immunity? Through proper nutrition. And a particular food, nutrient, or rather, let me call them simply, there's a particular group of food or micronutrients that are so useful. We call them antioxidants or antioxidants. Antioxidants are things, let me just call them things. They are food substances that counteract free radicals. Now, free radicals are precursors to most diseases. But sadly, free radicals are they actually also occur naturally in our bodies as part of our immune response. But now, these things, when they are in our systems, they make our bodies susceptible because you see, around every cell is a semi-permeable membrane that makes sure that whatever gets into the cell is decided upon. Not anything gets into the cell. But free radicals destroy that cell lining such that now even very foreign material can access your cell. Now, antioxidants are foods are mostly found in vegetables and fruits and nuts. Vegetable, fruits, and most nuts and seed nuts. I don't know, you know, seeds that give you oil. That's what I mean. Like sunflower, pumpkin seed. And then we have other nuts like walnuts. What other nuts do you know? Brazilian nuts and ground nuts. They are useful for giving us antioxidants. That's how you boost. Another way of boosting immunity is through the use of phytochemicals that we find in herbs. You know, people think, by the way, the word herbs doesn't mean it has to be bitter and it has to be for treating something. It doesn't have to be bitter. It could be sweet. And it could be simply for making sure that you supply your body with antioxidants. That's how we boost our nutrition. We need lots of vitamins E, vitamin C, vitamin D. Those are good. These are real. Anything that is rich in vitamin E and D and C is naturally a very good antioxidant. Now, other good antioxidants which are so useful are zinc, which we find from our seeds like pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and rapeseed. They are good sources of zinc, and selenium. And I just found out that avocado is one good source of selenium, apart from wheat germ and Brazilian nuts, which also are very high in selenium. And this is a mineral that is so responsible for reproduction, by the way. Most women who can't conceive or who can't sustain a pregnancy the entire 9 months, most of them are deficient in selenium. Others have clogged fallopian tubes. So they wonder, I'm getting my peas naturally, I've always had this, but I can't conceive. What's the issue? In most cases, there are selenium issues. Of course, I'm not saying it's the only thing. So fruits, vegetables, and your nuts would do you so much good in making sure you have immunity. Now, sometimes our resources are so meager, we want to spend them on what we consider important. Sindio? We say we don't have money to buy walnuts. Wintanunua walnuts ama ninunue skuma. Truth is, that which we are trying to save, we will let us spend it through trying to find medication. So supply yourself with better nutrition. That really helps to boost your immunity. Now, how do we build immunity? Building immunity comes in 2 ways. One, in making sure that there's a apt immune response. That's what we call initiation of the stage. See? And in the long run, again, to be able to bring it to immune conclusion or resolution, and making sure you caution yourself from the natural degeneration of immunity. Because as you age, naturally your immunity does what? Goes down. How do we make sure that we curb that? It's through exercise. Exercise is the best way to build immunity. In the short term, that means that when there is a need for an immune response, that it's there and it's on time and it is brought to its conclusion. Not every immune response results in conclusion. I think I mentioned that. That's why, but let me give an example. When you cut yourself, which protein comes into play to create a mesh to make sure your blood clots? Fibrinogen. Are we together? Or I'm not a medic by training. Forgive me if I get it right. But we know there are people who have a very hard time stopping bleeding. Some reason is because their blood is too thin. And in most cases, there's almost how fibrinogen, which is a protein, is called to action is so slow. People lose life from simple, okay, maybe in a car accident, you lose your leg and people literally die from bleeding. Sometimes even smaller wounds, and it's even harder for people with diabetes. That's why we need to be so serious about exercise. And of course, alongside every other health principle plays a part in all these three, in boosting, in building, and in balancing as well. Now, another thing that really helps to boost your immunity is sleep, because sleep helps to create the immunological memory. This is what people utilize to create vaccines. Your T cells, by the way, are able to keep a memory of antigens they have seen before. They are very slow learners, but when they are exposed to the same thing, they see it. Next time it comes, it won't take your body as much time to create an antibody as it did the first time. That is called an immune memory. And we need it. And sleep makes sure that your body is able to remember a certain thing. Of course, today there's so much about vaccine, and it's really not my business to discuss why or why not. But even without the use of vaccine, your body has a memory. It's able to remember something it has seen before. But that is better boosted when you take enough sleep. So when you watch series 24 hours, or I don't know why people stay awake. I really don't know. The only reason I find myself awake is when I'm struggling to sleep. But it's so important, sleep as well. Sunbathing, as simple as it sounds. You know, it's so much fun to sunbathe, but it's so useful for your immune system. Fresh air and supplying your body with water, and enough water. Now, how do we balance? The best way of balancing actually immune system comes under stress management. You may be eating well, sunbathing, exercising, what else? Resting well, taking enough water, but if you cannot manage stress, your immune system flips. See, one of the reasons why I believe we are recording so many death rates from this COVID thing, it's because of the mental tension that comes with the thought of COVID. By the time it comes to you, so many people are suffering from a fear of the same. Remember yesterday we read, for those who are here, we say that one very important thing in dealing with healing has to be the condition of the what? Of the mind. And we said that so many people are sick today and their diseases are wholly imaginary. And we also read that there are people who are dead today because they thought they would die. They were not sick, but they kept thinking that they were going to die, and the body created that environment and they actually die. The condition of the mind, learning to cope with stress. Stress is not bad, by the way. Stress in just enough levels is useful. Otherwise, we would never achieve anything. Thank you. I'm told our time is done. You know, you would never achieve anything without some form of stress. A deadline is a good example of acceptable stress. Just knowing that I have only 40 minutes to do this health presentation can help you plan yourself so that you fix your mind on doing something in that time. See? But when it gets to distress and anxiety and the other, the worst case of stress mismanagement, which comes to depression, which leads to psychosis and schizophrenia and all that list of mental diseases. If you want, you may eat well, do whatever it is, but learn to cope. One way of dealing with stress, as I finish, or avoiding stress, is having priorities. And it's not childish to have a priority list where you do a task, you mark. Do a task, you mark. Such that now, if it comes to a point where I was not able to do everything, whatever was left will not stress me out. Make sure you're not overbooked. Make sure you are realistic as well, even as you set your priority list. That will help you deal with stress. Our time is up. Maybe tomorrow we will finish this up nicely and take questions. Allow me to finish there. Very unceremoniously, let's rise and pray. Thank you, our God, for creating our bodies with vital force that is able to even restore itself, and for the immune system. Help us to learn, to build it, to cooperate with you, that we may enjoy better health for your glory and for the service of fellow man. In Jesus' name, amen.